everyone, and welcome to Miranda Detailing. In this video I am going to show you our new vehicle that we just got. It's a 2011 Toyota Avalon. It is jet black and we bought it from a dealership, and just like in one of my other videos I had showed how we detail the interior of the vehicle. Well, with the exterior I simply washed it, clay barred it, and just put a spray wax when I first got the vehicle just to kind of hold me over until I can do something a little bit more. So in the video today I'm going to correct the hood and put our coating on it, the Gtechniq EXOv3, because I'm going to do some testing on this vehicle and really see in a real world test to see how long that coating will last and to see some of the benefits of it as well. Now I'm also going to show you some measurements around the paint with our depth gauge, our paint depth gauge, and show you some things that we didn't know about when we were purchasing the vehicle. Well, I kind of knew a little bit about, but I really couldn't argue that case with the dealership. But obviously the dealership didn't know, and even the Carfax didn't show anything, so I'll talk about those points also. Alright, so here's the hood of the vehicle. It's been washed, clay barred, and I did an IPA wipe down, and you can see really how bad it is. Now I can't really pick it up on camera, but it has what I call fracturing in the clear coat, and it was repainted. So in the sunlight outdoors you can see it a little better. I really can't pick it up here, and it's really underneath the paint. And there's so many swirls here, you really can't pick it out anyway. Honda and Toyota have some paint problems, I believe with their mid-2000 and later vehicles, where the paint will fracture on the top surfaces, on the hood, and on the trunk, and Honda will, or Toyota will, repaint that. Supposedly. I've had customers that said that they reported it and they got it repainted. So I didn't have this with me. I should have brought it when I was going to look at the vehicle. Now this is just a cheaper paint depth gauge. It doesn't measure layers, it just measures the total depth. So that's including primer, paint, and clear coat. Now this is reading in mils. Now generally, from the research I have done, the average paint thickness in total is about 4 mils or so. So you're looking at over double that here on the hood, a sure sign that it was repainted. So you're looking at primer, paint, clear coat, and then possibly primer, depends on how they did it, but usually just lightly sanding the paint, getting out some of the defects, and then base coat, and then clear coat again. So we have these built up layers. It's not all clear coat, so you still have to be cautious, but this is really just telling you that it was repainted. So as we go down the rest of the vehicle, this also, so this panel, this door, so the driver's side door, the driver's side rear door. Now the top, hard to say. It could have just been clear coated instead of fully painted. But now it drops down to your regular averages. So now the rest of the vehicle, is looking like factory. Okay, so none of that was in the Carfax. There was no report of, it was most likely not an accident. because I know of that paint recall on Toyotas and Hondas. So you could tell the hood was repainted, and almost the entire driver's side was repainted, with maybe the top of the vehicle maybe just being clear coated and not fully repainted. So there's no way of knowing what has happened to this vehicle. There's no other signs of damage, so it could have just been the previous owner painted the hood because it was a factory recall. Maybe there was scratches down the side, maybe there was something else that happened. Didn't show up in the Carfax at all, so don't trust it, unfortunately. There's nothing you can do. Really, the Carfax is as good as what's reported on it. So unfortunately, if people don't report anything on it, it does absolutely nothing. The best way when you're purchasing a used vehicle, get an experienced detailer who has at least a basic paint depth gauge and a basic knowledge of paint and clear coat. They can spot signs of repaints. Oh, one other thing, let me show you this. So as we look in the driver's side, here we have again a tape line with overspray. Perhaps the door was open and they taped that, or the plastic or something was draped over it, but clear coat got in there. Again, a sure sign that these panels were repainted. Now here, unfortunately, we have damage from basically someone either trying to break in, which, ooh, maybe something happened with this vehicle where it was a break-in and damage, and they didn't report it, because really there's no need for that. This is a push-button start vehicle and it has the key sensor, so you just put your hand here, it opens it, and you press this to lock it. So why was there damage here? Perhaps trying to force entry into the vehicle, maybe doing damage down here that had to be repainted. Again, there's no way to know. Okay guys, so I'm gonna get a little nerdy here with some technical talk about clear coat and paint correction. I have here my little chart that I drew up, and really this is based off of research that I have done, and there's many other videos about this online. I'm just going to add one to my channel so that my viewers and subscribers can see what we know about clear coat and paint correction as well. So basically we have here in our chart, you see whatever the substrate is, so the metal of the vehicle, you have your primer, you have your base coat or your color, then you have your clear coat. And generally clear coat is a little bit thicker. They put on more layers than just the color, because this is where you're going to get your protection from. Usually factory clear coat, or any good clear coat that's going to be sprayed on and applied, is going to have UV inhibitors in it, so it's meant as a protection as well as the glossiness of your paint. This is where you get your swirls, scratches, paint defects, all sorts of stuff like that. So when it comes to swirls and perhaps wash marring, you're really looking at here. Just tiny, tiny, tiny little micro scratches in the paint. And you know, when the sun comes and the sunlight comes, it's going to, you know, refract it all weird, and that's when you see those swirls and those wash marrings really pop out on the paint. Holograms from improper buffing or using a rotary polisher improperly without refining, you also get those types of defects in the paint. Here you're going to have some deeper scratches in the clear coat. These can be repaired. These can all be repaired, as I'll show you in a second. Here you have a deeper one that's into the color. Now usually your thumbnail will catch in these because they are deeper, and again, as you know, sunlight will refract off of it, creating that scratch line that you see, and your eye goes right to it. Here you have a really deep one that goes right down to the metal. These are dangerous because it'll start to rust. Usually these will need filling. You can fill it up with paint, and then you can wet sand it and polish it to fill that in, because you want to do that. You want to protect your metal under here because it will start to rust. So when the paint is properly leveled or compounded and polished, what you're doing is abrading away the surface. So with compounding and polishing, you're abrading that surface and you get rid of all of that so that you have a nice, smooth finish. What you're left with is maybe the deeper stuff. So here's maybe a deeper scratch that didn't come out, an even deeper one that's not going to come out. You may need to fill those types of scratches to be able to make them completely disappear. But you are taking away microns of clear coat, just a little bit. If you go too much and you try to dig out this scratch, then you're left with thin clear coat. And that's not good. You want to leave as much clear coat as possible. That's why we can't really guarantee 100% paint correction, because there are going to be defects on the paint that are incorrectable. And if you try to go too far, wet sanding, and then compounding and polishing, you're going to be left with just a few microns of paint, which is extremely dangerous, because in time the sun will bear down on that and will cause it to fail over time, and it will start flaking off. So if you want to see what paint failure is like, I'll show you that now. So obviously not good. You want to leave as much clear coat as possible. That means perhaps living with some of these deeper imperfections and scratches in the paint. So I'm going to go around our vehicle and show you. So I'm going to show you first of all maybe some light wash marring and holograms and light swirls. I'll show you what those are. Now the majority of what you're seeing here, you can kind of see way over here. You see how those lines just kind of dance? That's really wash marring, because they go in straight lines. It could be maybe from an automated machine, an automated car wash, or it just could be by hand with bad wash material, bad drying techniques. And you see a lot of these here, and there's just so many of them. So that and hologramming made from an improper, made from polishing with a rotary polisher buffer around the same depth, they can be pretty easily removed with just a one-step polish, and then you're left with some of the deeper swirls and deeper light scratches. Now here, right there, you see a cluster, and that looks like it could be DA, hazing from, or pigtails from DA wet sanding, which they would usually do if they're going to repaint this entire thing. They would wet sand it all down and then go at it with a buffer, and it's not going to get everything. It's going to leave some of these little pigtails or these little marks in the paint. Yep, right there, you can see them. Those are deeper, so those will take a little extra compounding to get out. Now here we have a deeper scratch. I really couldn't feel it with my fingernail or anything like that, so it looks bad. It may or may not come out. So we'll see as we get into compounding what we can achieve with that. That scratch there, you're looking at possibly that one or that one. But we'll see when we get into correcting it. And then we have some other straight line scratches right there. Those are pretty light. Those may come out completely. And again, I don't go for 100% correction. I go with 80, 90, maybe 95%, depending on the softness or hardness of the clear coat, how much defects, how many defects are in the paint. And there's some other straight line scratches you can see go right across. Yep, right there. So I will go as far as I safely can, making sure that the customer is happy, and making sure there's plenty of clear coat left on the vehicle, I want to be able to safely correct the paint without compromising the amount of clear coat on the vehicle. So there's a fine balance there that we try to strike. So there's my chart for reference. Again, I just modeled it off of all of the other charts that are out there. Usually I get a lot of this information from autogeek.net. That's where I did tons of my research on and learned a lot. Plus, I also have experience in auto body repair and auto paint repair in my past anyway. So this all makes sense to me. I understand what this is. So if you have any questions or comments, put them down below. I'll try to answer them as best as possible. Or if I have anything incorrect, I understand that this can sometimes be subjective. Maybe people don't quite understand it. So if I said anything wrong, or if there's anything wrong here, let me know, because I need to make sure that I'm doing things correctly also. Now, I know with this paint depth gauge, this is not high tech. Again, this is how I dry my pads after I wash them, for whatever that's worth. Now, this is just a cheap paint gauge, and I got it off of Amazon. I wouldn't necessarily say get this one because it's just a cheap one, but I got it just for reference when I'm polishing, and it's not going to tell me all of the layers on the clear coat. In order to do that, you have to spend upwards of $2,000 to $3,000, maybe even more, on a paint depth gauge that can read all of those levels. Now, I'm not at that level, so I'm not going to buy a $3,000 paint depth gauge just so I can do daily drivers and maybe some other nicer high-end vehicles. I'm going to go with how much paint is on there, how much paint I'm removing as well. If I'm just removing a few microns at a time and I'm getting the results that I want, then I stop there. I don't go any further, and I make sure that it looks good. So I know it's cheap. It's not the best of the best at all, but it gives me a point of reference. Let's get started on the hood. We're going to do a full paint correction on the hood. I'm not going to do the rest of the vehicle right now. I'm just going to start on the hood, and I'll work my way around the vehicle as the months go on. But let's start on the hood, get that cleared up, and we're going to coat it. So we'll show the process of how we do that. So this is just after the cutting. So, you know, it's marred from your usual cutting. And again, there's some things that just won't come out. And that was after 2 compounding sessions. But we'll refine it soon. But that was what it was now after 2 cuttings. So, oh, you can see a straight line that goes right across there. So let's cut the rest of it and then we'll start refining. Cutting is done. So it looks a little hazy because of the cutting. I was having to really cut it heavy, going a few passes to get it cleared up. So what you're left with is that DA hazing and compounding hazing. So let's get into the refining. Okay, so the hood has been cut, it's been finished, and overall it's looking great. As you can see, it has a lot of pitting and some other swirls and deep scratches that just won't come out, but looking much better than it was. So I IPA'd the whole hood so it's strip clean, so let's coat it. So fresh towels, fresh applicator, and the EXOv3. I just have a little bit left in this bottle here, so I'm going to use that. So let's get started. So the hood is now corrected and coated. It's looking great. So we'll test this and we'll see what type of durability we get on a jet black hood, a jet black car that has been coated with EXOv3. So like I had mentioned, this is my personal car, and now that the hood is corrected, it's coated, we're going to see what type of durability we get from this. So hope you enjoyed the video. Please like it, subscribe if you haven't already, and click that bell. That way you get a notification each time our videos drop. And if you have any questions or comments, put them down below. I'll see you next time. Have a great day.